CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Bertrand Godillot, and we're going to be talking about social selling. But Bertrand's going to be demonstrating what social selling means through the use of a whiteboard. So I'm not actually going to ask many questions because Bertrand is taking the stage. But what we wanted to do was show how simple social selling is and demystify some of it by using a whiteboard. Bertrand, are you ready?
I am.
Do you want to first and foremost, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. Very easy. I am the founder and managing director of Odysseus & Co. And you can find me on LinkedIn looking for the French guy.
And you're the only Bertrand on...
I am the only one. Yeah, I guess, well, hopefully.
So if I press this button here, that brings up the whiteboard.
Yes, exactly. And just a few words of introduction on this. What this is all about is making it as simple as possible. The background being one of my friends saying, you know what, I don't really understand what this all means, because there are many offerings about how you have an active presence on LinkedIn, and so how yours is different. This is where this is all coming from. So you've got you on the left-hand side of that screen and your ICP, your ideal customer profile, so your audience, basically, on the left-hand side of that screen. And what you must have experienced, and I'll explain how you can measure this, is that between you and your ICP, there is bear with me, that is a door. And that door says it's closed. Hopefully you can write this. So there's a closed door between you and your target audience. And the way you can measure this, or at least experience this, is very simple. Is if you try to, that is, again, bear with me, that is a phone. If you try to place a phone call, or if you try to send an email, or if you try to get your audience onto a landing page, you will roughly experience always the same type of results, which is going to be between 3 to 5% of conversion rate. And that basically says that door is closed. So there's no way for you to actually reach your target, at least reach your target this way. So now the question is, how is social in general different? And I'll come back to this. So your ICP, if we now move to the digital world, they do have a profile. Actually, we know that roughly 56% of the workforce does have a LinkedIn profile, and they roughly spend an hour on LinkedIn per month. That obviously is an average. It actually increases the more you go to the IT world or supply chain functions, for instance. We know that this is roughly, this is actually much more, and both in terms of percentage and in terms of time spent, you will probably get to an hour a week rather than an hour per month. What we also have on that front is your ICP do have friends on social, and we actually know that they roughly have, if we take LinkedIn as an example, 1,000 friends on LinkedIn in their network. And this is really good news for you. I'll come back to this. And then obviously every now and again, if you are lucky, your audience is also publishing content. And the way they are doing this is most of the time they are broadcasting their corporate content, but they may be also contributing with original content, which is even better, and I'll explain why. Right, so on your end, similarly, you do have a profile, usually very serious profile. So, it's all about what I do, nothing about who I am, but more what I do. You do also have friends, roughly the same number, usually if you're not so active on social. And every now and again, you as well do publish content. Right, so that's the landscape. And what most, you could say, pros on LinkedIn will tell you is that you should go, and even LinkedIn themselves, by the way, that you should go straight to your ICP. And the first thing that most people will recommend is that you go either through direct messages, paid messages, or through emails straight to your ICP. So people who have done that will probably have experienced the exact same results as anything that was done before.
An in-mail is a cold call on a social network, in effect.
Is exactly the same as cold calling on social media. So what it means, and I think we should all recognize this, is that there is another reality, which is there is also a closed door on social, and that closed door is that closed door is also kind of the you could say the reality behind this is that your ICP, your target audience, and yourself live in two completely different ecosystems. And therefore, when you get to your ICP directly, either through emails or direct message, you are a stranger. And that's the reason why you get the exact same results. What we know, by the way, is also...
There's no relationship, there's no trust, therefore you're a stranger, yeah.
Exactly. And what we also know is that, and that's a LinkedIn study, is that 76% of people getting invites or emails or messages stop at reading your headline. So if you have a very professional, if it says I'm a salesman everywhere, and by the way, I am the best salesman of my category everywhere on your headline, guess what? There's absolutely zero chance that your target audience is going to accept anything from you because you're a threat. You're seen as a threat. You're a stranger and a threat. So nothing's going to happen. So how do we get to some results from there? So it's quite simple, actually. The first thing you need to do, because of that number, and that we recommend you do, is that you create a more attractive profile. How do you make a more attractive profile? Is probably by, first of all, look a little bit more approachable, have a little bit of content, have a little bit of who you are rather than what you do. And I'll try, because I've got today I've managed to do a very small window. You know what this is, Tim?
What's that?
What I just wrote here.
Cup of coffee.
Exactly. So you need a coffee machine, because the first thing you do when you meet someone at a customer site, or the first time you meet a customer, is you go to the coffee machine. So you need to have the equivalent, the digital equivalent of a
coffee machine.
So that's basically the starting point. Because now now that you look a little bit more approachable, that potentially you also look useful, then you can start reaching out, instead of reaching out directly your ICP, you can start reaching out their network. And the way you're going to do that is not by pitching or whatsoever, but more with what I would call a network invite. So you want to expand your network, you want to to make new friends, basically, in a category which you are not picking up by chance or randomly. You are picking them up because they are in a position to either influence your future customers or because they are your future customers at a point in time. They might be. And because you have changed your profile, what you're going to get is obviously visits. And these visits are going to be much more productive than reaching out directly to your ICP, because we reckon that a beginner will probably get from 30 to 35% acceptance rate on these type of invites.
So when you're sending a connection request, you'll get a 30 to 35% acceptance rate as a beginner.
Yes, as a beginner. Experts will probably get to 60%.
Yeah.
So if you've done that for a while and you know how to approach this, you'll get much better results. So what happens here is quite interesting, to be honest, because what you're doing when you get when you increase your network into your ICP network, what happens is that you get your ICP friends into your environment, into your ecosystem. Excellent news. Because what happens is that they will be naturally exposed, if you're publishing content, to your content, and they may react to your content positively, which is the second very interesting, you could say, behavior. Because what this means is that over time, your content is also going to be placed right in front of your ICP, before your ICP. And why that? Simply because 80% of your feed on LinkedIn is made of your network reactions. So simply by the fact that you're inviting your ICP, you've got relevant content. That relevant content generates reactions into your ICP network. All of a sudden, your content is put before your ICP, almost automatically, which is really good as well. Because what I would say that the bottom line is it would probably start by creating exposure, but over time that exposure may turn into something that we are very familiar with in B2C, less in B2B. It's called influence. So what really happens is that over time, and that can go extremely fast, by the way, you are influencing your ICP. And as you can see, by the way, also what happens here is that these two ecosystems start to get into some kind of merge. So it's probably the right time to go and also comment onto your ICP content, because that will obviously also generate a little bit more influence. So you look approachable, you can engage the conversations on content, and that participates to, again, merging these two ecosystems, having exposure, and therefore, and ultimately influence. And we can see that very quickly now. There's something happening here that I just said, is that what you're creating something here which is slightly different from where you were initially, because what you have done here is you have created you are in the middle of creating a you see that? I'm sorry, because that's not
relationship, yeah.
really cool. But I am creating a relationship, which is all we need, to be honest. So we are creating a relationship, and that relationship you can generate, probably spending 20 to 25 minutes on a daily basis.
So you just need to spend 20, 25 minutes
20,
a day.
25 minutes, you invite people into your ICP network, you release your content, and then obviously over time, all of these elements are going to get in place together and play their role, so that you get at that level where you do have a relationship. And what happens when you have a relationship? Well, guess what? All of a sudden, the door actually opens here. And what this means is that over time, when you are going to be in a position, say you infiltrate, you have, say, 15%, 5, 10, 15% common network with your target. Then you can go to your target directly. And what is going to happen here is also something everybody is looking for, usually in B2B, and that is a meaningful, I insist on meaningful, because it is full of context now, but a meaningful conversation.
So this isn't, I reach out to you, Bertrand, and basically ask for 15 minutes, which you grudgingly give, and then I sit and I pitch. This is a meaningful conversation.
This is a meaningful conversation, and as you rightly mentioned, this is not the 3 minutes conversation, the 3 minutes and 30 seconds conversation that everybody is looking for so that they can pitch. It is roughly, it is more a 30 minutes conversation that you're going to get. And if you do that on with regularity, if you do that on a constant basis, you're probably going to get between 5 to 10 conversations per week. As I speak right now, my diary for next week is saying I'm going to have 9 conversations with either my ICP or people who can influence my ICP. So
to summarize that, to spend 25 minutes a day consistently, you should be getting 5 to 10 high quality conversations with your ICP a week.
Exactly. Which is kind of 10 times whatever you would be doing with the traditional techniques here. So it's a really micro influence in B2B made simple. There's no magic in there. It's it's just the way it works. It works in the real world, and the way it works also digitally. There is no reason why. It's always been a question mark for me. Why are we behaving differently in the digital world or on the social world as we would be on a show or on a trade show or on a live event, even on a dinner with with some friends.
Well, we would never, if we went to a trade show and we were standing on a stand and someone came over, we wouldn't immediately pitch. We'd ask questions like, "What are you looking for?" You start building rapport first of all. Have you come far? And those things, and then you'd say, you've clearly come here for a reason. Was there something that you were looking for? We wouldn't have actually pitched.
Exactly.
Because we're trying to find out what their requirements are, so we can then match back.
And we have a great opportunity on social media because we have the means to recreate this, which is very different from cold calling, email, well, anything cold, by the way. But so we have the opportunity to warm up the relationship before we actually get to the goal of all of that.
Bertrand, this is excellent. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. Remind people, where can they get hold of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Bertrand Godillot on LinkedIn. You can also find me on my website, odysseusandco.com, based in France, but working internationally. So happy to have a discussion.
Bertrand, thank you so much for coming on today and showing this. It's excellent, and the way that you've broken it down and made it look simple, I just think it's just so excellent. And the way that people could actually build revenue at scale with this is just phenomenal. I mean, it changes the game, doesn't it?
It does, hopefully.
Bertrand, thank you so much for coming